Hey, welcome to Lady and Daydreams. I'm so excited to have you guys here. This channel has been a long time coming and Valentine's Day just seemed like the perfect time to jump in. I do have another channel. It's called Lady in Wonderland. I will put the link in the description if you'd like to check that one out. It's kind of the opposite spectrum of crafting from this channel. If you like quirky, dark, creepy, or weird, definitely check that out. Anyway, like I said, we're going to be working on a Valentine's Day project, and the exciting thing about this is entirely from our scraps. So it is zero waste and almost essentially costs nothing because you already have everything in theory. We will be making some ornaments, and I'm going to be showing 3 different ornaments today, but I will also have templates for a few more, as well as these, for sale on my website. So if you want to go check those out, you can. Getting started, you will need a few things. A ruler, which is optional, but if you want things to be a specific size or consistent, then yeah, a ruler should be helpful for that. Scissors, some sort of thread. You can use sewing thread, you can use machine, embroidery thread. I'm going to be using embroidery floss. Whatever you have on hand will work perfectly. I'm going to be using some newspaper to create the templates, which you could do as well, or again, if you wanted to follow along, you could print them out. So for this particular ornament, I'm using some old clothes. They're either stained or rips, etc. I have an old baby blanket, an old toddler skirt, and a clubbing top. Those are the scraps that I will be working with. To get started, you want to create your template. So in this case, I'm going to be starting with a circle. So I grabbed an old tin and just made my template from that and cut it out. This ornament is going to be circular, and it's going to have a second circle inside along with a heart shape. So we'll be cutting out 2 large circles, 1 small circle, and then the heart that will fit inside the small circle. Once we have all of our pieces, it's time to start embroidering. So to start off, we're going to be attaching them in layers. We're going to start from the outside and work our way in. So we're going to first blanket stitch the heart onto the small circle. I'm just going to be using a blanket stitch. I love it. It's easy. It adds nice texture and kind of a fun border to everything, and it closes things up really well too. So that's why I stick to that. You can use basting glue to attach the heart to the circle to begin with, just to kind of keep it in place. I use actually just a standard stick of white glue. Just a little dab keeps it in place while I stitch it. Once you're finished attaching that, now you're gonna attach the small circle to the big circle. I did, however, as you can see, the bottom fabric has kind of like a zigzag chevron, so I did play with it to see which direction I wanted it to go. I decided on going at an angle so it didn't look like it was trying to be perfect and failing. It looked purposely failing. Does that make sense? Anyway, just a dab of regular glue to keep it in place while I blanket stitched it. If you have a sewing machine, you could absolutely freehand stitch all of this on. It would be so much quicker, and it would still give a really fun kind of folksy, primitive art style finish to everything. More recently, I have come to love hand sewing, so this was super exciting to me. For the last step, we're now going to sew the 2 bigger circles together. So I'm choosing a contrasting thread this time, and I'm sort of folding the ends sort of inside together, and I'm pinning it mostly just to show you visually what I'm doing. I didn't continue pinning it all the way out, mostly because it just would get in the way and kind of annoying. But I just wanted to make sure that there was a good visual to show you how I'm turning the edges inside of each other so that you can see it. In this case, I'm going to be blanket stitching again, but I wanted the edges turned in. It has a slightly stronger connection that way, less likely for the stuffing that'll eventually go inside to come out, and it'll just have cleaner edges. Now, once you're almost done, about a quarter or so left, you can start stuffing it. Now this is my scrap pile. So these are tiny little pieces. usually 1/2 inch or less, little strips, tiny little fringes, whatever. Scraps that really can't be used for anything. I save them so I can stuff things. Hello, free stuffing. And you can't tell, like once it's in there, you can't tell that it's scraps that are stuffing it. So free stuffing, you don't even have to buy stuffing for this. You have this puffy little cute ornament. Now, if you wanted to add a hanger from it sewn in, before you close it, you should sew that in. In this case, I wanted an outer hanger, which I will show how to do a little bit later. Okay, now that we are finished, on to the next one. So in this one, I'm using another old baby blanket and a toddler dress. Both are ripped, so could not be donated. And so whenever I come across clothes, especially if they have like a nice pattern, a good texture, solid fabric, I keep it. Like, if it's not going to get used at a charity shop, why bother donating? It's just going to get thrown away anyway, so I might as well use it for something good. This time I cut a larger heart and a smaller heart, and 2, of course, of the larger heart so that you can close it eventually. And this one follows basically the same process as last time. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to keep it in place. You really don't even need as much glue as I added, and you certainly don't need to press it as much as I did. Not sure why I was so dramatic there. And then I'm going to use more embroidery floss and a blanket stitch to attach the small heart into the larger heart. All the same as I did last time. I do have some of these ornaments and quite a few more for sale on my website. I added a lot of jewels and beads, glass, wood, different textures. So if you're not interested in making your own ornament, you can buy them. And I have really simple ones and I have really not simple ones for sale. So go ahead and check those out. Their link is in the description as well. Now, to make this one a little bit different from the last one, besides the shape, I'm adding some glass beads. So that is my order. Now, before I started anything, I used a water-soluble pen to mark out the spots so that they're more or less in the same area. And then I just sew them on. Really, really easy. So you don't want to pull it too tight when you're doing it, unless you're going for a crinkle effect. So try to keep it as flat as possible. Now in this case, I'm actually sewing them together as opposed to adding the blanket stitch on the outside. So to sew this one, you will sew the nice sides of the pieces together, so they need to be facing each other. And then I'm just going to do a basic whip stitch all the way around, stopping again around 25% and open so that I can turn it inside out and stuff it. Now I'm just going to carefully turn it right side out. You can use your finger to kind of smooth out the edges because there is going to be some parts that are kind of stuck. And once you have it all nice and turned out, then I'm going to grab that stuffing box again and continue stuffing. And you really want to make sure you're, especially for when you start having shapes, you want to make sure you're really getting into all of the edges so that it's not like overstuffed in one area and understuffed in another. Stuffed it pretty well. And now I'm going to use a ladder stitch to close up that area. And again, if you wanted to have your ornament hook thing sewn in, this is when you would do it. Again, I'm going to be doing that at the end. So, and then as you get a little bit closer to filling it, you kind of move the fabric around, make sure it's full as you want it to, or kind of shove in a few more pieces as you go, and make sure it's as stuffed as you want. And you can go like fully stuffed with this and do like a big old poop ball pillow thing. Or you can keep it kind of light and thin like I did, which I think makes a great size for putting it on a tree or hanging it off of a garland or something like that. Once it's done, now again I use the water soluble pen to mark where my circles were. So now I'm just going to spray some water over all of those areas that have a blue mark on it. and it'll instantly disappear. And then I just set it next to a window so it dries really quickly. It's not like that much water gets sprayed, so it's pretty quick. Okay, for our last blend on here, we're actually going to be using 4 fabrics. Now, I will start this by saying there are 2 ways that you can make this particular one. What I'm going for is kind of a patchwork style. If you wanted to make it more properly patchwork, you would sew together, 4 pieces of fabric and then cut out your design. That is not what I did here. That was on purpose. In my instructions on my site, I do give you instructions for both styles because they're both, I think, kind of fun. This was on purpose. It's just to show you kind of a unique way of doing this, and I think it came out really fun. So let's get going. So the fabrics that I chose for this one, I have some cute little toddler pants, a baby onesie, a old shirt, and a roof sweater. So very, very different styles of fabric. My main template is a heart. So what I'm going to do is cut that out 4 times, 1 for each fabric. And for whichever fabric you decide to have as your back, you want to cut that one out twice. Now I take that little heart template and I cut it up into 4 different little sizes. So I've got kind of that main angle at the top, and then like a little puzzle piece, they all sort of fit together to create sort of a patchwork style. Now I cut up those 4 main things 4 times. Now we have our main thing. So I'm going to be using fusible interfacing, and I'm going to cut out the heart from it. Although honestly, you could just iron it on in general and cut it out after, because you have to trim it anyway. So this part is probably unnecessary. That's fine though. And you're just going to iron all of those 4 pieces onto the heart in the designated spot. Again, traditionally you would sew the fabrics together and then you would cut it out. I wanted something that felt more fun, freeing, accessible to others. I don't know. Easy peasy, just press it on. The shiny side is the side with the glue. Just a quick little press and everything is fused on in place. And now I'm going to be taking some embroidery floss and I'm going to make some fun little X's to keep the pieces together. So kind of like a messy stitch style, sort of like a stitched up heart, if you will. But, bonus that it keeps it all together. The interfacing does pretty well on itself, but this just makes everything feel a little bit more purposeful, especially since my first one kind of had a gap in the fabric. But the stitch actually fixed most of that, so that's great. I just pulled it a little bit tighter and then everything worked together. And in true zero waste style, I used the scraps to stitch everything, so I didn't cut additional floss. Once that was done, I used a blanket stitch, which I don't think you really cared about seeing a third time, around the edge. I left it open around 25% so that I could fill it. Do all this, you're still filling your scrap thing, and so if you notice, I'm literally filling it with scraps from its own fabric, which is kind of fun. Then I continue the blanket stitch all the way around, close it up. To not bore you with the details, I will show you how I made the little strap once, so it's not repetitive. Whatever fabric you choose to make your little loop from, for each, I cut about 4 inches by maybe 1.5 inches. And you fold it over and you're just going to do a basic whip stitch across. And then you will turn it inside out. Now, you want to kind of flatten it with the seam in the center. Once you kind of got it placed, then just do a quick press so it remains flat. And now, once you're done, you get to do the fun part. You get to choose some buttons. So, as you can see, you've made a little loop here. And we'll be basically attaching it on both sides of the ornament. So, front and back, so it's nice and strong. And you're going to choose a couple buttons that could be fun for both sides of it. So I'm trying to find some pinks, maybe some turquoise that would kind of stick out. For this particular one, I chose a white. And then you're just going to sew both sides together. And there you go. I chose a couple different ones. Now it can hang perfectly. And now we've got tons of cute little ornaments. Super, super easy. You can literally do them while you're watching TV. And the possibilities are endless. So here are the 3 that I made in this video. Like I said, I have a ton more on my website that are for sale. And if you want to do it yourself, and you want to use my templates and some of the other ones that I didn't even get to share, that is also for sale on the website. So thank you so much for sticking around. This was super fun. I have so much planned for this channel, and I cannot wait. Look forward to seeing you guys again. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you had some fun with me. Happy Valentine's Day, or not. You know, if you're not into Valentine's Day, which ironically I'm not. My husband and I do not celebrate it, but it's still kind of a fun holiday to decorate for because I'm a huge fan of pinks. I love the fun, imperfect style. I love that whole like folksy, primitive thing, and the possibilities are endless, and I love any project that is zero waste. So if you're a fan of that, then let me know. Okay. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram if you make your own, because I absolutely want to see. Okay, I love you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.